Today, we're going to do a camera comparison between the S25 Ultra versus the S24 Ultra. Now for the camera experience, I do like the new UI on S25 Ultra where I can easily press the 30x and 100x easier. But with both phones, I really like how you can get easy access to ultra wide all the way to max zoom without much of a hassle. Now for the hardware, the only thing that's pretty much new is the ultra wide on S25 Ultra, which is now a 50 megapixel camera, and everything else is the same. So basically most or all of these photos are going to be very similar, and you will probably see some slight differences. And I think those differences depends on what is being shot or the environment. But to me, I would say like 80 or 90% of the time, it's going to be very similar. So in this set, the colors are slightly different. I would say Miles' face is a bit warmer and slightly more saturated on the Galaxy S24 Ultra. And I feel like that's probably going to be most of the pictures that you're going to see is the Galaxy S24 Ultra is just slightly more punchier than the last or this year's model. So the S25 is just a bit more toned down, kind of more flat and leaning towards the greenish side. Now that could be a good thing for some people since they don't like the punchy look, and in certain times like in the shadows you can see it being more exposed than the S24 Ultra. Now for this next set, I am taking pictures of this food or this chicken sandwich, and yes, the S24 Ultra one is more punchier, but sometimes I feel like it could be too much, where on S25, even though it's a lot more toned down, it seems like it's more natural to the eye. So I feel like it depends on the situation or what picture you are taking of. Now comparing with the new ultra wide cameras, since the S25 Ultra has the new one, just looking at these two, a lot of it is pretty much the same thing. There could be some slight better handling on the highlights, but I feel like 90 or 95% of the time the pictures are very similar, and even if you do macro shots, you won't really see a huge difference either. Now for low light, I do notice a difference, and personally I feel like most of these pictures, the Galaxy S24 Ultra seems to be just a little bit cleaner. Even during the daytime, once you zoom into 30x or 100x, it just seems like the S24 Ultra has less noise and artifacts. So that also transitions to low light as well, where later you're gonna see that once you zoom in, it's gonna be a big difference in terms of the noise. But since I got this during the day it was announced, I hope by the time the phone releases to the public there is some sort of firmware update, because currently I feel like the Galaxy S24 Ultra is just slightly better in terms of clarity overall. For example, with this 5x and 10x shot, you can tell that it's just smoother on S24 Ultra and a lot more noise on S25 Ultra. Now with the portrait mode, I'm pretty sure most of it is going to be the same thing since you're not really using the ultra wide where it's the only new camera between these two phones. So it is mostly the same, and I feel like with this set of pictures of me, the colors are almost exact. It feels like I'm more punchier on S25 Ultra, but with the next set of portrait pictures of Jonathan, I feel like on the S24 Ultra, he is more punchier or warmer in the skin tones, and I feel like that's something probably a lot of people would prefer. Now with the overall picture, I feel like on S25 Ultra is a bit too much green, especially once it hit to the 5x, you can clearly see the green coming out. Now with the next set, it is outdoors or daytime, so this is where the camera should perform the best. And you guys can probably notice more on the skin tones where the S24 Ultra, where Parker's face is much more warmer. Now I know it's all personal preference on which one you like, but at least both of them do have great cutouts. Now there is one huge thing I noticed while taking portrait mode pictures is that on S24 Ultra, you can tell that the cutout doesn't seem like it's gonna work because there's a lot more blurry edges. But when you're taking pictures on S25 Ultra, the portrait mode is very clean. So if you're looking around the ears or around the hair area or even around the head area, it looks like the cutout is exactly what you're gonna see when you take the picture. Now moving on to video with the ultra wide, the stabilization is very good. I feel like you're just using a gimbal while you're walking. And I feel like it's probably one of the most stable looking shots out of any phone. But as I mentioned earlier, I feel like the S25 Ultra is leaning towards the greenish side, as you can tell just by looking at the sky. Now for the wide camera, it is basically the same thing, so you will probably not notice any difference at all. Moving on to the 5X for video, I feel like the S24 Ultra is a bit more contrastier, so the blacks do stick out a bit more, but it is slightly more punchier with the greens on S25. And then moving on to 10X, I feel like they are very similar. The S25 Ultra might be a bit more contrastier, so the greens do stick out just a bit more. Now at this point, I know that I'm very nitpicking and just trying to tell you something that sticks out, but overall in general, 90 or 95% of the time, it's looking the same. And then moving on to low light, ultra wide, again, stabilization is very similar, very smooth. It does seem like there is less market jitters on the S25 Ultra, but maybe that's just me. Now moving on to the wide camera, the S24 Ultra is a lot cleaner. If you look at the ground on the S25 Ultra, there's some noise going on, and if you really pay attention, there's like this weird color shifting that pops in and out. So hopefully they really fix this by the time it releases to the public. Now moving on to the 5X while I'm walking, for the stabilization, the S25 Ultra does win, but again with the noise, I feel like the S25 Ultra is just not as clean yet. So that is a comparison between these two phones. I feel like the S25 Ultra is just not there yet. Maybe it's because I got this during announcement day, and by the time it releases to the public, hopefully there is some sort of upgrade to make things look better or even just as good as the S24 Ultra. So hopefully there will be one so I can redo this comparison again, but let me know your thoughts. Will you be getting the S25 Ultra just because of the new body and even better AI stuff? But anyways, thanks for watching and I'll see you guys later.